Hey guys, tonight we're hitting the open road, tires hissing on wet asphalt as rain pelts your windshield like 1,000 tiny fists. You're a trucker, hauling freight through a stormy night, chasing a route that feels like it's leading nowhere. The cab smells of stale coffee and damp leather, and the wipers can barely keep up. This isn't just any drive, it's a journey laced with roadside history, ghostly whispers, and memories that cling like fog. Buckle up, because, with the storm raging, you probably won't survive this without a few chills. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You grip the wheel, the rain a relentless drumbeat as you roll through a stretch of highway that feels older than time. The road's cracked pavement tells stories of truckers long gone, their rigs roaring through the 1930s, when highways like this were lifelines for a struggling nation. Back then, the Great Depression forced men to haul anything: coal, timber, dreams to scrape by. You imagine their headlights cutting through nights like this, their radios silent except for the crackle of early AM stations. Historians still argue whether these early truckers were heroes or just desperate souls. But their grit built the roads you're driving now. Your headlights catch a faded sign. Next stop, 20 miles. It's one of those rusty markers that hasn't been updated since Eisenhower's interstate boom. The rain blurs it, and for a second, you swear it flickers, like it's not entirely there. You chuckle, must be the coffee wearing off, right? But then you remember the old trucker's tale, whispered in diners, the ghostly hitchhiker of Route 17. They say he appears on nights like this, soaked to the bone, thumb out, eyes hollow. He's no urban legend though. In 1947, a local paper reported a string of sightings, drivers claiming they picked up a man who vanished from their cab before the next mile marker. You glance at the empty passenger seat, half expecting to see a wet shadow. Nothing yet. The road dips, and your rig groans under the weight of its loadsome unmarked crates. You didn't bother inspecting too closely. You're a practical sort, but the storm's messing with your head, making every shadow a story. You recall your uncle's tales, a trucker from the 80s who swore he saw things on these route lights that wore headlights, voices that weren't on the CB. He'd laugh it off over pancakes, but his eyes never did. You shake it off, crank the heat, and focus on the road. The rain's a curtain now, and your wipers are losing the fight. You squint, catching a glimpse of something, a figure, at the edge of the light. It's gone before you can blink. Probably just a deer, you tell yourself, but your knuckles whiten on the wheel. Let's talk about that highway you're on. It's not just asphalt, it's a vein of American history. In the 1920s, roads like this were barely roads, muddy tracks that chewed up Model Ts and spit out broken axles. Truckers were the cowboys of their day, hauling goods across states before GPS or even decent maps. One quirky tidbit: early truckers used to tie red rags to their bumpers as a signal to others, sort of a proto-turn signal, but mostly it meant I'm carrying something heavy, don't mess with me. You smirk, imagining your rig with a red rag flapping in the storm. Wouldn't help much now, with visibility down to a few feet. You ease off the gas as the road curves, the rain making it slick as a politician's promise. Your CB radio hums, but no one's talking yet. You've heard stories of truckers picking up strange signals on nights like this, voices that don't belong to any living driver. Your uncle mentioned it once, said he heard a call for help on a dead channel, but when he answered, it was just static. You're not sure you believe it, but you keep the CB on, just in case. The rain keeps pounding, and the night stretches ahead, endless and wet. You're alone, but it doesn't feel that way. You're still rolling through the downpour. The highway, a slick ribbon stretching into the dark. The rain's so thick, it's like driving through a car wash with no end, and your rig's tires hum a low, uneasy tune. You're approaching a crossroads, one of those nowhere junctions where the signs are so faded you can barely read them. Mud's creeping onto the asphalt, turning the road into a slippery trap. You ease off the gas, feeling the weight of your load shift. This place feels wrong, like the air's holding its breath. You've heard about this. Spot truckers call it the Muddy Crossroads, a place tied to a 1930s legend about a driver who never made it through. Back in the 30s, this junction was a choke point for truckers hauling grain across state lines. The Great Depression had farmers desperate, and truckers were their lifeline, dodging washed-out roads and bandits who'd rob a rig for a sack of flour. One driver, a guy named Amos Reed, became a legend here. Historians still argue whether Amos was a hero or just reckless, but the story goes he tried to cross this very junction during a flood. His truck got stuck, and when locals found it days later, the cab was empty, the cargo gone. No trace of Amos, just his hat in the mud. You glance at the road, half expecting to see that hat tumbling in the rain. The quirky thing about this place, truckers used to leave offering cigarettes, coffee cans, even old boots at the crossroads signpost, thinking it'd keep Amos's ghost from hitching a ride. You chuckle, picturing yourself tossing a half-eaten granola bar out the window. "Take that, Amos," you mutter. But your laugh dies when your headlights catch something at a shadow that looks too human, standing where the roads meet. It's gone in a blink, probably just the rain playing tricks. Still, you turn up the heater, trying to shake the chill that's not from the cold. Your CB crackles, spitting static like it's got something to say. You fiddle with the dial, but it's just noise, no voices, no calls. You remember your cousin, a part-time hauler, telling you about this stretch. He swore the mud here moves, like it's alive, swallowing tires if you stop too long. You told him he was full of it, but now, with the road slick as grease, you're not so sure. You keep moving, slow and steady, the mud sucking at your wheels like it's got a grudge. This crossroads has history beyond Amos. In 1933, a federal report noted it as one of the deadliest spots for truckers in the region. Floods, fog, and bad luck claimed at least a dozen rigs that year alone. The government poured money into paving it better, but the mud still wins when the rains come. You feel it now, the way the road fights you, like it's daring you to stop. You don't. You've got miles to cover, and the thought of being stuck here, with Amos's ghost, or whatever else lingers, isn't appealing. You squint through the windshield, the wipers slapping a rhythm that's almost hypnotic. The crossroads fades behind you, but the uneasy feeling sticks. You think about your uncle again, his stories of routes like this, places where the road feels alive, where every shadow's a story. He'd grin, saying, "Kid, the highway's got more ghosts than a graveyard." You laughed then, but now, with the rain hammering and the road empty, you're starting to wonder. A sign looms ahead, barely legible. "Diner, 5 miles." You exhale, relieved. A hot coffee, maybe a slice of pice, sounds like salvation. But knowing this route, the diner's probably got its own secrets. You're still pushing through the storm. The highway, a blur of rain and shadow, but that diner sign is a beacon in the dark. 5 miles felt like forever, but now you see Eater neon glow cutting through the wet night, spelling out Marge's Diner, in flickering red and blue. You pull into the gravel lot, tires crunching, and park under a sagging awning that barely shields your rig from the downpour. The diner's windows glow warm, but something about the place feels off, like it's watching you back. You grab your jacket, step out, and feel the rain sting your face as you dash for the door. Inside, it smells of grease and pie, but there's a chill that doesn't match the steaming coffee pots. This place has a story, one tied to a 1950s tragedy that truckers still whisper about. Back in 1956, Marge's Diner was a hotspot for truckers hauling freight along this route. It was the kind of place where you could get a burger at 2 a.m. and swap stories with drivers who knew every mile of asphalt. But one night, a fire broke out, faulty wiring. They said, and the place burned to the ground. 2 waitresses didn't make it out. Historians still argue whether the fire was an accident or something darker, like arson tied to a local feud. The diner was rebuilt, but truckers say the waitresses never left. You slide into a booth, the vinyl creaking, and scan the room. The jukebox hums a faint tune, even though it's unplugged. You smirk, probably just your tired brain playing tricks, right? The quirky tidbit here: drivers in the 60s swore they'd find extra coffee in their cups after looking away, like someone or something was topping them off. You glance at your mug, steam curling up, and decide not to test the theory. The waitress, a tired-looking woman with a namatag reading Doris, slings a menu your way. You order a coffee and a slice of cherry pie, hoping to shake the unease. The pie's good, but every bite feels like you're being watched. You catch Doris staring from behind the counter, her eyes too still, like she's waiting for you to notice something. You lean back, sipping the coffee, its warmth grounding you. The diner's quiet, save for the rain tapping the windows and the faint clink of dishes. You remember your dad, a trucker in the 70s, talking about places like this oases in the night, but sometimes they held on to their ghosts too tightly. He'd laugh, saying, "Some diners serve more than food." Kid, you thought he was joking, but now, with the neon buzzing and the air heavy, you're not so sure. You glance at the empty booth across from you, half expecting to see a figure in a 50s uniform, tray in hand. Nothing, just shadows. The history of this place runs deeper than the fire. In the 1950s, diners like Marge's were more than pit stops. They were social hubs, where truckers shared news before CB radios took over. They'd pin notes to a corkboard, warning about bad roads or shady way stations. You spot a similar board near the counter, covered in faded Polaroids and scribbled messages. One catches your eye. "Beware the passenger who doesn't speak." You chuckle, but it's a nervous sound. You're not superstitious, but this route's got you jumpy. Doris refills your coffee without asking, her smile tight. You nod thanks, but her gaze lingers too long. You shake it off, blaming the storm and the late hour. The pie's gone, and the coffee's cooling fast. You toss a few bucks on the table and head for the door, the bell jingling behind you. Back in your rig, the diner's glow fades in your rear view. The road calls, but the chill from that booth clings to you, like you brought something out with you. You're back on the highway, the diner's neon glow a fading memory in your rearview mirror. The rain hasn't let up, hammering your rig like it's personal, and the windshield wipers are fighting a losing battle. Your CB radio crackles to life, spitting static that sounds almost like words garbled, urgent, then gone. You adjust the knob, but it's just noise now, a low hum that sets your teeth on edge. The road stretches dark and endless, and you're alone, or so you hope. This stretch is infamous among truckers for its midnight radio static, a phenomenon tied to a CB mystery from the 1970s that still makes drivers check their locks. Back in 1973, CB radios were the lifeline of the road, connecting truckers across miles of lonely asphalt. But on this route, drivers reported hearing voices that didn't belong, disembodied calls for help, coordinates to nowhere, even laughter cutting through dead channels. One story, printed in a now-defunct trucking magazine, claimed a driver named Hank picked up a signal here, a woman's voice begging for a ride. He answered, but no one replied, and his CB burned out the next day. Historians still argue whether these were pranks, atmospheric tricks, or something stranger, but the stories persist. You glance at your CB, its green glow, steady, and mutter, "Stay quiet, all right." It doesn't answer, but you're not taking chances. Here's the quirky bit. Some truckers in the 70s swore the static formed words if you listened long enough, like a ghostly Morse code. One guy claimed he heard "turn back" repeated for an hour. You chuckle, imagining yourself decoding static like some trucker Sherlock. But the laugh fades when your CB hisses again, a faint whisper of mile marker 42 slipping through before it cuts out. You're passing mile marker 41 now. Coincidence, you tell yourself, gripping the wheel tighter. The road's a tunnel of rain, your headlights barely cutting through. You think of your old man, who drove this route before CBS was standard. He'd tell you about nights like this, when the radio was just AM stations playing Elvis or sermons. He once heard a preacher's voice fade into static, then a low moan that wasn't part of the broadcast. "Road's got its own voice," he'd say, half joking. You didn't believe him then, but now, with the CB muttering ghosts, you're starting to wonder. You shake it off, crank the heat, and focus on the yellow lines. This highway's got history beyond the static. In the 1970s, it was a key route for hauling steel during the Rust Belt's decline, when truckers dodged union strikes and fuel shortages. The feds cracked down on speeding rigs, but drivers like your old man knew every back road to avoid the scales. You smile, picturing him outrunning a patrol car in his old Mack truck. That's the spirit you need now, with the storm trying to drown you and the CB acting possessed. You lean forward, squinting through the rain, and spot a faint glow ahead, another truck, maybe, or something else. You ease off the gas, cautious. The glow vanishes, and your CB crackles again, this time with a burst of static so loud it makes you flinch. No words, just a wall of noise, like the road itself is screaming. You turn the volume down, heart thumping. You're not scared, okay, maybe a little, but you've got a job to do. The load in the back, those mystery crates, feels heavier somehow, like it's listening to. You laugh, a dry sound. Get a grip, you mutter, but you keep one eye on the CB and the other on the road, waiting for whatever's next. The rain keeps pounding, a relentless roar against your rig's cab, and the highway feels like it's pulling you deeper into nowhere. Your CB's gone quiet again, thank goodness, but the memory of that static whisper, mile marker 42, still buzzes in your head. You're past it now, the marker a blur in the storm, but the unease lingers like damp clothes. Up ahead, something flickers in the dark, a pair of headlights that don't quite move right, weaving like they're floating. You squint, heart kicking up a notch, and then they're gone. You've heard about this, the phantom truck, a spectral rig tied to a 1970s trucker who vanished on this stretch. His story whispered over coffee cups in diners like in 1974, a driver named Jimmy Walsh was hauling lumber down this road when he radioed about a breakdown. His last call was calm, just asking for a tow, but no one ever found him or his rig. The official report said he ran off the road, maybe drowned in a flooded ditch, but no wreckage turned up. Historians still argue whether Jimmy got lost in the storm or met foul play. Some say hijackers worked this route back then. You glance at your side mirrors, half expecting to see a ghostly semi trailing you. Nothing but rain. Still, you ease off the gas, just in case. Here's the quirky bit. Truckers swear the phantom truck leaves tire marks that vanish by morning, like it's driving on borrowed time. You chuckle, imagining yourself hopping out with a flashlight to check for ghost tracks. Yeah, right, you mutter, but your eyes flick to the road's edge, searching for marks that don't belong. The storm's too fierce to see much, just a wall of water and the faint glow of your headlights. You think of your cousin, who drove this route a few years back. He'd joke about seeing things in the rain lights that weren't there, shadows that moved wrong. Roads got eyes, he'd say, grinning over a beer. You laughed him off, but now, with the night pressing in, you're not so sure. The cab's warm, but a chill creeps up your spine, like the air's carrying a memory. You turn up the heat, the hum of the blower, a small comfort against the storm's howl. This highway's got deeper roots. In the 1970s, it was a lifeline for small towns, hit hard by factory closures. Truckers like Jimmy kept them alive, hauling everything from canned goods to machine parts. But the road was brutal, narrow, poorly lit, and prone to washouts. A 1975 transportation log noted over 30 accidents here in 1 year, most in storms like this. You feel it now, the way the road fights you, slick and unforgiving. Your rig's tires hum, but every curve feels like a gamble. The headlights flicker again, far ahead, then vanish. You blink hard, telling yourself it's fatigue, maybe that diner coffee wearing off. But the story of Jimmy's phantom rig nags at you. Drivers say it appears on stormy nights, leading you off the road or just watching. Its cab empty, but its engine roaring. You shake your head, muttering, get it together. The load in the back feels heavier, those crates you didn't check too closely shifting slightly. You don't believe in ghosts, but you keep your eyes on the road, watching for lights that don't belong. The rain doesn't let up, and the night stretches on, pulling you toward whatever's waiting. The storm's still clawing at your rig, rain lashing the windshield like it's got a personal vendetta. You're on a desolate stretch now, one of those old highways that used to be the lifeblood of America, Route 66, or what's left of it. The pavement's cracked, the faded yellow lines barely visible through the downpour, and the road feels like it's mourning its own decline. Your headlights catch glimpses of rusted signs and abandoned gas pumps, relics of a time when this was the main street of America. Tonight, it's just you, the rain, and the ghosts of a route that's seen better days, whispering tales of its gritty past. Route 66, born in 1926, was the artery for dreamers and drifters, truckers and families chasing the American promise. By the 1970s, though, interstates like I-40 started bleeding it dry, leaving stretches like this to rot. Small towns withered, diners closed, and truckers like your old man had to find new routes or new jobs. Historians still argue whether 66's decline was just progress or a betrayal of the Heartland's spirit. You feel it now, the road's quiet anger, like it resents being forgotten. The rain only makes it moodier, turning every pothole into a trap. Here's the quirky bit. Back in the 60s, some truckers swore Route 66 had singing pavement stretches where the tires hummed tunes. If you drove just right, you smirk, imagining your rig belting out a soggy rendition of Sweet Caroline. You test it, easing off the gas, but all you hear is the rain's relentless drumbeat. No songs tonight, just the road's low growl and the creak of your wipers. You think of your uncle, who ran this route in its fading days. He'd talk about the characters he met: hippies, hustlers, and waitresses with stories as big as the desert. One night, he said, he saw a neon sign flicker on at a boarded-up motel. No power for miles. 66 don't let go easy. He'd chuckle, but his eyes told you he half believed it. You glance at the empty passenger seat, half expecting a hitchhiker from nowhere. Nothing, just shadows dancing in the rain's reflection. This stretch has history heavier than your load. In 1969, a convoy of truckers got stranded here during a freak storm, their rigs buried in mud. A local paper reported they survived by sharing coffee and stories in a shuttered diner. But one driver swore he saw figures walking the road at night, figures that didn't show up in the morning. You shake your head, muttering, just stories. But the rain's making everything feel alive, like the road's whispering back. Your CB stays silent, thank goodness, but the quiet feels heavy, like it's waiting to break. A faded billboard looms ahead, advertising a long-gone motel. Sleep easy on 66. You laugh, dryly sleeps. The last thing you're getting tonight. The road curves, and your tires slip just enough to make your pulse jump. You steady the wheel, thinking of your cousin's advice. Respect 66, or it'll eat you. He was half joking. But right now, with the storm raging and the road fighting back, you're giving it some respect. The crates in the back shift again, a dull thud that makes you wonder what you're hauling. You push the thought away, focusing on the next mile, where the rain and the ghosts of Route 66 are waiting to see what you do next. The rain's a relentless beast, pounding your rig as you push deeper into the night. Route 66's faded glory is behind you now, but the storm's only getting worse, turning the road into a river of muck. Your rig sputters, the engine coughing like it's caught a cold, and then clunk it stalls out completely. You're stranded in the middle of nowhere, the kind of nowhere that feels like it's been waiting for you. The dashboard lights flicker, and the wipers freeze mid-swipe, leaving you staring at a blurred wall of water. This isn't just bad luck, it feels like the road's playing dirty, tied to a cursed 1980s convoy story that truckers still curse under their breath. Back in 1983, a convoy of 5 rigs got stuck on this stretch during a storm just like this one. They were hauling something hush-hush government cargo, maybe military, nobody knew for sure. The lead driver radioed for help, but by the time rescuers arrived, the trucks were empty, not a soul in sight. No tracks, no signs of a struggle, just 5 rigs sitting in the mud like they'd been abandoned for years. Historians still argue whether it was a cover-up or just a freak disappearance, but truckers call it the cursed convoy, and this spot's been bad mojo ever since. You glance at your own cargo, those mystery crates, and wonder if you should have asked more questions. Here's the quirky bit. Locals swear the mud here glows faintly at night, like it's soaked up the convoy's bad vibes. You squint through the rain, half expecting a neon shimmer in the muck. Nothing but wet dirt. You chuckle, muttering glow-in-the-dark mud. My ass. But your laugh's shaky. You pop the hood, grab a flashlight, and step out. The rain's soaking you in seconds. The engine's a mess of wires and grime, but nothing looks obviously wrong. Still, you feel eyes on you, like the storm's watching. You think of your dad, who warned you about nights like this. Road'll test you, he'd say, sipping whiskey after a long haul. He told you about a time his rig died in a storm, and he swore he heard footsteps circling the cab. Just the wind, he'd grin, but you saw the unease in his eyes. Now, knee-deep in mud, you're starting to get it. You slam the hood down, the clang swallowed by the rain, and climb back into the cab, dripping wet. The engine won't turn over, and your CB's dead silent, not even static now. This stretch has history heavier than your stalled rig. In the 1980s, this highway was a hotbed for smuggling drugs, guns, you name it, because cops rarely patrolled during storms. A 1984 sheriff's report mentioned finding abandoned rigs here, cargo gone, drivers vanished. You try not to think about it as you fiddle with the ignition, praying for a miracle. The rain's a roar, and every shadow outside looks like it's moving. You mutter a half-joke to yourself. At least the ghosts can't drive stick, but your heart's not in it. The crates in the back creak, like they're settling in for the wait. You're stuck, and the road knows it. You lean back, wiping water from your face, and scan the horizon for headlights any sign of help. Nothing but rain and darkness. Your flashlight's beam catches a rusted mile marker, barely standing, and for a second, you swear it sways, like it's beckoning. You blink, and it's still. Get a grip, you tell yourself, but the cursed convoy story's got you spooked. You try the engine again, nothing. The night's closing in, and you're alone with the rain, the road, and whatever's left of that 1983 mystery, waiting to see if you'll join it. You're stuck in the mud, your rig a dead weight under the hammering rain, and the night feels like it's laughing at you. The engine's still silent, no matter how many times you turn the key, and the cab's starting to feel like a damp coffin. You're on a lonely stretch of highway, miles from that neon-lit diner, and the idea of trudging through the storm for help isn't exactly appealing. You decide to wait it out, hoping the rain eases up, and figure a motel you passed a few miles back might be your best bet for shelter. It's one of those crumbling roadside joints, the kind that looks like it's been forgotten since the 1960s, and you've heard whispers about it, a place tied to a missing persons case that still gives truckers the creeps. Back in 1964, the Starlight Motel was a pit stop for truckers and travelers, its neon cactus sign a beacon on this route. But one summer, 3 guest stew truckers and a drifter checked in and never checked out. Their rooms were found empty, bags untouched, and the motel's logbook had their names scratched out like someone didn't want them remembered. The case was never solved, and locals started calling it the Motel of Lost Souls. Historians still argue whether it was foul play or just runaways skipping town. But truckers avoid the place, saying it feels like stepping into a memory that isn't yours. You rub your eyes, muttering, "Great, a haunted motel. Perfect night for it." Here's the quirky bit. Drivers who stayed there swear the mirrors show reflections that don't match, like a shadow moving when you're standing still. You chuckle, picturing yourself waving at a ghost in the bathroom mirror. "Hey buddy, got a towel?" You joke, but the humor feels flat. With the rain pounding and your rig dead, you grab your flashlight and a soggy jacket, deciding to hike to the motel. The mud sucks at your boots, and every step feels like the road's trying to keep you. You think of your cousin, who once crashed at a place like this on a dare. He said the lights flickered in patterns, like Morse code, and the bed creaked all night with no one in it. Never again, he'd laughed, but you saw him check his locks twice before his next haul. Now, trudging through the storm, you get why. The motel's sign comes into view, its neon cactus half-lit, buzzing like a dying insect. The office is dark, but a faint glow leaks from a window, and you swear you see a curtain twitch. Your pulse picks up, but you're too wet and tired to care. This highway's got a darker past than just vanishing guests. In the 1960s, it was a smuggling route for moonshine, with motels like this one doubling as drop points. A 1965 police report mentioned raids here, finding stashes but no culprits. Like the culprits melted into the walls. You push open the motel's door, the bell jingling too loudly in the quiet. The clerk, an old guy with eyes like faded denim, hands you a key without a word. Room 7. The hallway smells of mildew and something sweeter, like old perfume. You unlock the door, and the room's a time capsule floral wallpaper, a rotary phone, a mirror that feels too big for the space. You drop onto the bed, the springs groaning, and glance at the mirror. Your reflection looks normal, but you avoid staring too long. The rain's still hammering outside, and the room's cold, like it's holding on to the 1960s. You laugh softly, muttering, "If I vanish, tell my story." But the thought of those missing truckers sticks with you, and the motel's silence feels heavier than the storm. You lie back, keeping the flashlight close, and listen to the rain, wondering if you'll make it out of this place by morning. You're lying on the creaky motel bed, the rain's relentless drumbeat seeping through the thin walls of the Starlight Motel. The room's damp air clings to you, and that oversized mirror across from the bed keeps pulling your eyes, though you're trying not to look. The storm's got you trapped, and the stories about this place, those missing truckers from the 60s, are crawling under your skin. You're not superstitious, but the silence in here feels alive, like it's waiting for you to make a move. You decide to head back to your rig soon, but first, you've got to cross a bridge just down the road, one that truckers call the Bridge of Whispers, tied to a Civil War era smuggling legend that's got more holes than a bad tire. Back in the 1860s, this highway was a dirt trail used by smugglers running goods, whiskey, tobacco, even weapons past Union and Confederate lines. The bridge, a rickety wooden thing back then, was a choke point where deals went down under moonlight. One night, a smuggler named Caleb Holt was ambushed there. His wagon burned, his body never found. Locals say his ghost still lingers, whispering deals to anyone who crosses at night. Historians still argue whether Caleb was a traitor or just a profiteer caught in the wrong war, but truckers swear they hear his voice in the wind. You sit up, muttering, "Ghosts don't pay tolls." But the thought of crossing that bridge in this storm doesn't thrill you. Here's the quirky bit. Some drivers claim the bridge planks rattle in a pattern, like footsteps pacing back and forth, even when no one's there. You chuckle, imagining yourself counting ghost steps like some paranormal tap dancer. Want to? Caleb's coming for you, you joke, but your voice sounds too loud in the quiet room. You grab your flashlight and jacket, deciding to check on your rig and face the bridge. The motel clerk gives you a nod as you leave, his eyes saying more than his mouth. The rain's a cold slap as you trudge toward the bridge, your boots sinking into the muddy shoulder. You think of your uncle, who crossed this bridge once and swore he heard someone whisper his name. Just the wind, he'd laughed, but he never took this route again. Now, with the storm howling, you get why. The bridge comes into view, a low iron structure that replaced the old wooden one, its railings slick with rain. You pause, shining your flashlight across it. The beams catch nothing but water and rust, but the air feels heavy, like it's holding secrets. This route's history runs deeper than Caleb's ghost. During the Civil War, bridges like this were hotspots for spies and deserters, with both sides using them to slip through enemy territory. A 1863 military log mentioned skirmishes here, with bodies pulled from the river below. You step onto the bridge, the metal creaking under your weight. The wind carries a low moan, probably just the storm, but it makes your skin prickle. You move faster, the flashlight beam dancing on the wet surface, and for a second, you swear you hear a whisper your name. Maybe. You stop, heart thudding, and listen. Nothing but rain. You laugh it off, muttering, "Nice try, Caleb." But you keep moving. The bridge's far end, a blurry promise in the dark. Your rig's just beyond, still stuck, and the thought of those crates in the back nags at you again. What's in them, anyway? You shake your head, focusing on the path. The bridge groans behind you, like it's complaining about your weight. You don't look back. The rain's still falling, the night's still watching, and you've got a long way to go before this route lets you go. The rain's still coming down like a grudge, soaking you as you leave the bridge of whispers behind, its eerie moans fading into the storm's roar. Your rig's still stuck where you left it, a stubborn shadow in the mud, and the thought of hiking back to the Starlight Motel's creepy vibes isn't appealing. You're on a narrow, twisting stretch now, climbing a foggy mountain pass that feels like it's trying to shake you off the road. The air's thick with mist, your headlights barely cutting through, and every curve makes your stomach lurch. This pass is notorious, tied to a 1940s trucker's ghostly warning that still haunts drivers who dare to climb it on nights like this. Back in 1947, a trucker named Earl Grayson was hauling fuel up this pass when his rig slid off in a storm, exploding into a fireball that lit up the night. The wreck was so bad they only found his logbook, charred but legible, with a final entry, "Don't stop, keep climbing." Since then, drivers say Earl's ghost appears in the fog, waving them on or warning them back. Historians still argue whether Earl's crash was bad luck or sabotage, as some say rival haulers tampered with his brakes. You grip the wheel, muttering, "Thanks, Earl, but I'm already stopped." The fog's so thick you can barely see the road's edge. Here's the quirky bit. Some truckers swear they've seen tire tracks in the fog itself, like Earl's rig is still driving the pass. You chuckle, picturing ghost tires floating like smoke rings. What's next? A spectral traffic jam. You joke, but your voice is shaky. You're on foot now, heading back to check your rig, the flashlight beam swallowed by the mist. Every step feels like you're trespassing on someone else's road. You think of your dad, who ran this pass once, and swore he saw a figure in the fog, pointing up the mountain. "Just shadows," he'd said, but he chain-smoked the rest of the night. Now, with the fog curling around you like fingers, you get it. The pass has history beyond Earl's crash. In the 1940s, it was a smuggling route for bootleggers, dodging wartime rationing. Their trucks loaded with black market gas. A 1946 sheriff's log mentioned finding a rig up here, abandoned, its cargo gone, but the cab warm. like the driver just stepped out. You shiver, not just from the cold. Your flashlight catches the glint of your rig's bumper, still stuck in the mud. You climb into the cab, hoping the engines had a change of heart. No luck, it's dead as ever. The fog presses against the windows, and for a second, you swear you see a shape outside, tall and still, like it's waiting. You blink, and it's gone. Fog's messing with me, you mutter, but your pulse says otherwise. Those crates in the back creak again, and you wonder if they're part of this pass's bad luck. You try the CB, but it's just static. No ghostly warnings from Earl. Thank goodness. You lean back, the cab's damp chill sinking in. The pass feels alive, the fog, a curtain hiding whatever's watching. You laugh softly, saying, if Earl shows up, I'm asking for towing tips. But the humor doesn't stick. The road's too quiet, the fog too thick, and you're stuck in a place where history and ghosts blur together. You glance at the windshield, half expecting Earl's face in the mist. Nothing. Yet. You've got to get moving. But this pass isn't done with you, and the night's still got secrets to spill. The fog's still choking the mountain pass, wrapping your stuck rig in a grey shroud that makes the world feel small and wrong. The rain's eased to a drizzle, but the air is heavy, like it's holding on to every story this road's ever told. You're back in the cab, wiping mist from the windshield, but the engine's still dead, and the silence is louder than the storm ever was. You're miles from anywhere, and the thought of that creepy motel or the whispering bridge isn't exactly comforting. This stretch feels like a trap, and you've heard about an abandoned gas station just down the road, tied to a 1990s urban myth that truckers toss around like a bad penny. In 1992, the Starlight fuel stop was a busy hub for truckers, its pumps always humming. Then one night, it just shut down, no warning, no explanation. The owner, a guy named Ray, locked the doors and vanished, leaving behind a full tank of gas and a register stuffed with cash. Locals spun tales of a deal gone wrong, maybe drugs, maybe worse sand by the 90s. Drivers started saying the pumps worked on their own, dispensing fuel to rigs that weren't there. Historians still argue whether Ray ran from debt or something darker, but truckers avoid the place, saying it feels like stepping into a photograph that doesn't want you. You mutter, great, ghost gas, just what I need. Here's the quirky bit. Some drivers swear they've seen the station's lights flicker on at midnight, even though the power's been cut for decades. You chuckle, picturing yourself pulling up to a glowing pump like it's a sci-fi movie. Fill her up, Casper, you joke, but your voice echoes in the cab. You grab your flashlight, deciding to hike to the station. Maybe there's a payphone or a miracle waiting. The fog parts just enough to show the road, and you trudge forward, boots squelching. You think of your cousin, who passed this way once and swore he smelled gasoline where no station stood. Roads playing tricks. He'd laughed, but he double-checked his fuel gauge for weeks after. Now, with the fog curling like smoke, you get why. The station comes into view, a skeleton of rusted pumps and a boarded-up shop, its sign barely hanging on. Your flashlight catches a glint, maybe a window, maybe something else. You pause, heart thumping, but it's just glass reflecting your beam. Still, the place feels wrong, like it's waiting for Ray to come back. This highway's got a darker past than just vanishing owners. In the 1990s, it was a hotspot for trucker scams, fuel stops popping up to fleece drivers with watered-down gas. A 1993 state report flagged this stretch for irregularities, but no one dug deeper. You step closer to the station, the air thick with the faint scent of oil, though the pumps are bone dry. You check the shop's door locked. Of course, a faded sign reads, "Back in 5." You snort, muttering, "Sure, Ray, take your time." The fog swirls, and for a second, you swear you hear a pump hum, then stop. Just the wind, right? You circle the station, looking for a phone or a sign of life. Nothing but cobwebs and cracked concrete. The crates in your rig crossed your mind again. Why do they keep nagging at you? You shake it off, focusing on the task. The fog's lifting slightly, but the station feels heavier, like it's holding its breath. You laugh nervously, saying, "If I get free gas, I'm not complaining." But you're not sticking around to find out what this place wants. The road's calling, and you've got to get your rig moving before the night claims you for good. The fog's thinning as you trudge back from the abandoned gas station, its eerie pumps fading into the mist behind you. The rain's down to a faint drizzle, but the highway is still a slick, treacherous ribbon. and your rig's not going anywhere with its engine dead. You're back in the cab now, the damp leather seat creaking under you, and the silence is oppressive, broken only by the occasional drip on the roof. The road feels alive, watching, and you refighting a creeping sense of highway hypnosis, that trance where the lines blur and the miles melt into a dream. This stretch is notorious for it, tied to a 1920s road building scandal that left this highway cursed with more than just bad asphalt. Back in 1927, this road was part of a rushed state project to connect remote towns, but the contractor cut corners using shoddy materials and underpaid labor. The result was a highway that seemed to eat drivers' focus, with curves and dips that lulled you into a daze. By 1929, so many accidents happened, here trucks veering off, cars stalling, that locals called it the sleepy strip. Historians still argue whether the contractor's greed or bad engineering caused the wrecks, but truckers say the road itself pulls you under. You rub your eyes, muttering, "Stay awake, genius," but the monotony is already tugging at you. Here's the quirky bit. Old-timers claimed driving this stretch at night made their dashboards glow faintly, like the road was whispering secrets through the wiring. You glance at your own dashboard, dim, normal, no ghost lights. You chuckle, picturing yourself waving at a glowing speedometer. "Hey road, got any bright ideas?" You joke, but your voice feels small. You slap your cheeks, trying to shake the dais, and crank the window for a blast of cold air. It helps, but the road's rhythm is relentless, each mile marker ticking like a metronome. You think of your uncle, who warned you about this stretch. He'd driven it in the 80s, said the lines seemed to move, like they were guiding him somewhere else. "Sing to stay awake," he'd advised, half laughing. You try humming an old trucking tune, but it feels wrong, like the road's listening. The history here runs deeper than bad construction. A 1928 state log noted drivers reporting lost time on this route, hours gone with no memory, like the highway stole them. You check your watch, paranoid, but it's ticking normally. Still, you feel the pull, the way the road wants you to drift. Your CB's still silent, a small mercy after the earlier static. You glance at the crates in the back, they await a constant nag. What's in them? You shake it off, focusing on the road. The fog's almost gone, but the dark feels heavier, like it's pressing on your eyelids. A mile marker looms, number 73, rusted but clear. For a second, you swear it says 37, but you blink, and it's right again. "Nice try, road," you mutter, gripping the wheel. You try the engine again, nothing. The hypnosis is creeping in, and you're fighting to stay sharp. But this stretch isn't done with you. The night's a long way from over, and the road's still whispering. The highway's grip on you tightens, its endless black asphalt and fading yellow lines pulling at your senses like a lullaby you can T-shake. You're still in the cab, the engine silent. The drizzle outside, now a faint patter, but the air feels thick, like you're breathing someone else's memory. The sleepy strip's hypnosis is real, and you're fighting to keep your eyes open, the road's rhythm trying to drag you under. You're stranded in a ghost town just off the highway, a cluster of crumbling buildings you spotted when the fog lifted. It's the kind of place that looks like it died mid-sentence, tied to a 1950s atomic test rumor that truckers still swap in hushed tones over late-night coffee. In 1953, this stretch was near a military test site where the government detonated experimental bombs. Part of the Cold War's feverish push, locals swore the blasts shook the town to dust, leaving it abandoned overnight. Some said the tests weren't just bombs, whispers of chemical experiments lingered, with truckers reporting strange lights in the sky for years after. Historians still argue whether the town's collapse was economic or something spookier, like radiation driving folks away. You glance at the empty buildings, their windows like hollow eyes, and mutter, "Hope you're not glowing, pal." The thought's not as funny as you'd like. Here's the quirky bit. Drivers passing through swear their radios pick up old 50s, broadcasts big band tunes or eerie PSAs on dead channels. You fiddle with your CB, half expecting to hear Elvis crooning through the static. Nothing but silence. You chuckle, saying, "Guess I'm not that lucky," but your voice feels swallowed by the quiet. You step out of the cab, boots crunching on gravel, and head toward the town's edge, flashlight beam cutting through the damp air. The buildings lean like they're tired, and you feel watched, though nothing moves. You think of your dad, who drove past here once and said the town felt like it was holding its breath. "Don't stop long," he'd warned. half joking, said he saw a streetlight flicker when it shouldn't have. Now, standing here, you get it. The history's heavier than the crates in your rig. In the 1950s, this area was a trucking hub before the tests, with rigs hauling supplies to the test site. A 1954 log mentioned drivers refusing runs here, citing headaches and nightmares. You rub your temples, feeling a dull throb, probably just fatigued, right? The air smells faintly of ozone, like a storm's coming, though the sky's clear. You scan the town, spotting a collapsed diner and a gas station with a pump frozen at 12 cents a gallon. You laugh softly, muttering, bargain of the century. But the humor fades when you hear a faint hum, like machinery waking up. You freeze, swinging your flashlight. Nothing, just the wind, or maybe the road playing tricks again. Those crates nag at you. What's in them? You shake it off, heading back to the rig. The town feels like it's closing in, its silence louder than the rain ever was. You climb into the cab, locking the door, and try the engine again. Dead. The ghost town's watching, and you're starting to wonder if it wants you to stay. You're back in the cab, the ghost town's empty buildings lurking just beyond your windshield. Their shadows stretching long in the faint moonlight, breaking through the clouds. The drizzle's stopped, but the air's still heavy, carrying that ozone temps that makes your skin prickle. Your rig's engine is a lost cause, and the silence is deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of those mystery crates in the back. You're fighting the urge to doze off, the sleepy strip's hypnosis still tugging at your eyelids, but the CB radio crackles to life, spitting cryptic chatter that feels like it's from another time. This stretch is infamous for it. Tied to a 1970s trucker's disappearance that's still the stuff of late-night diner debates. In 1978, a driver named Clara Boone was hauling freight through here when her CB lit up with strange messages coordinates. Please, even laughter that didn't sound human. Her last transmission was a calm, "I'm turning back," but she never made it to her drop. Her rig was found a week later, parked neat as you please, keys in the ignition, cargo gone. No sign of Clara. Historians still argue whether she ran off or met foul play and whisper about hijackers targeting lone women. Drivers back then, you glance at your CB, its green glow flickering, and mutter, "Clara, don't start with me." The static hisses, almost like a reply. Here's the quirky bit. Truckers say Clara's voice still comes through on Channel 19, always at 3 a.m., asking for a heading that doesn't exist. You check your watch. 1:03 a.m., close enough to make you uneasy. You chuckle, saying, "If Clara calls, I'm hanging up." But your finger hovers over the CB's mute button. The chatter starts again, a garbled mess of voices, none clear enough to make out. You turn the dial, hoping for silence, but a faint "help me" slips through before it cuts out. Your heart skips, but you tell yourself it's just interference. You think of your cousin, who heard something similar on this route. He'd laughed it off, said it was probably kids messing with a stolen CB, but he stopped driving at night after that. Now, with the ghost town outside and the radio acting possessed, you get why. This highway's got history beyond Clara's story. In the 1970s, it was a hotspot for CB. Scams crooks posing as stranded drivers to lure truckers into ambushes. A 1979 police report logged dozens of incidents here, though few were solved. You lock the cab door, just in case, and try the engine again. Nothing. Those crates creak, and you wonder again what you're hauling, something worth stealing. Maybe. The CB crackles once more, a low voice saying, "Mile 88, you're at mile 87. You laugh nervously, muttering, "Nice try, road," but you're not sure who you're talking to. The ghost town's silhouette feels closer, like it's leaning in. You shine your flashlight out the window, catching a glint, maybe a window, maybe eyes. You blink, and it's gone. The road's playing games, or maybe Clara's out there, still looking for her turn. You lean back, rubbing your face, and fight the pull of sleep. The night's not done with you, and the radio's got more to say before you find your way out. The CB's gone quiet again, but its last cryptic whisper, "Mile 88, still echoes in your head as you sit in the cab. The ghost town's hollow buildings staring back through the thinning fog. The rain's stopped entirely, and a faint dawn is creeping over the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple. Your rig's still dead, those mystery crates in the back, silent but heavy, like they're holding secrets of their own. You're exhausted, the sleepy strip's hypnosis clawing at your eyelids, but the road's finally loosening its grip. This is the end of the line, or close to it, and you're thinking about a legendary trucker's last ride. A story from the 1980s that feels like it's trailing you through this fading night. In 1986, a driver named Red Callahan made his final run on this highway, hauling a load nobody ever identified. He was a legend known for taking routes others wouldn't touch. But that night his CB went silent, mid-sentence, and his rig was found at dawn parked on the shoulder, empty except for a single red bandana on the seat. No trace of Red, no cargo, just that bandana. Now a trucker's talisman. Historians still argue whether Red retired in secret or met a darker fate, maybe tied to the shady loads that ran this route. You glance at your own load, muttering, "Hope you're not cursed, Red." The dawn's light feels like a promise, but you're not out of the woods yet. Here's the quirky bit. Truckers say Red's bandana shows up in random cabs, always on stormy nights, like a warning or a goodbye. You check your passenger seat empty, thank goodness. You chuckle, saying, "Keep your souvenirs, Red," but your voice is soft, the night's weight still pressing. The ghost town's fading in the light, its buildings less menacing now, just sad. You try the engine one last time, nothing. But the dawn's here, and with it, a faint hope of getting unstuck. You think of your uncle, who idolized Red, said he was the kind of driver who'd outrun the devil himself. Red knew the road's secrets. He'd say, eyes distant. Now, sitting here, you feel those secrets all around you, the whispers, the static, the shadows that moved wrong. This highway's history is thick with them. In the 1980s, it was a smuggling corridor, with rigs like Red's carrying who knows what under tarp. A 1987 report mentioned unexplained losses here, drivers and cargo vanishing like smoke. You wonder about your crates again, their weight, a quiet accusation. Maybe it's time to check them when help arrives. The sky's lighter now, the ghost town softening into ruins. You step out, stretching, the air crisp and clean. A distant rumble catches your ear, another truck, maybe rescue. You laugh softly, muttering, "About time, road, let me go." The night story's clearer, Red. The cursed convoy feel like dreams now, fading with the dawn. You're ready to leave this nowhere behind, but the road's left its mark, and you'll carry its whispers for miles. Wind down, the dawn's fully here now, a gentle glow washing over the tired highway, softening the edges of the ghost town's crumbling bones. You lean against your rig, the cool metal grounding you, and take a slow breath, letting the night's weight slip away. The air smells of wet earth and possibility, and the road, once a living thing with teeth, feels quiet, almost kind. You're still stuck, but the light's chasing the ghosts back to their stories, and you feel your shoulders loosen, your heart slow. Somewhere, a bird calls, faint but clear, like a signal that the world's waking up. You think of home, your own bed, a hot shower, the hum of a fan as you drift off. The crates, the whispers, the flickering shadows there, just echoes now, fading like tire tracks in the rain. Close your eyes, let the dawn hold you, and rest. You've earned it. End of script. Sweet dreams.